In 1978, the most popular TV show in the United States was a show called Dallas. It was about a man named J.R. Ewing, a Texas oil baron, who used manipulation and blackmail to achieve his ambitions. The most popular song in the United States that year was Staying Alive by the Bee Gees. What was the most popular film that year? It was Superman, and quite obviously superhero movies have never stopped being extremely popular. In 1978, we got to meet Michael Myers for the first time, who appeared in the movie Halloween. All that was 45 years ago, and looking back, we can see what kind of music people were listening to, in addition to what movies and TV shows were most popular in 1978. But let's go back another 100 years to 1878. What was new and exciting back then? In 1878, James A. Bland published a huge hit called Carry Me Back to Old Virginny. That became the state song of Virginia in 1940. Bland was the first African-American composer whose music was published by a major company. Quite obviously, Carry Me Back to Old Virginny was a very popular piece of music that year. In 1878, the phonograph was invented by Thomas Edison, and that invention forever changed how we listen to music. That same year, the Remington No. 2 typewriter was introduced. It was the first typewriter with a shift key enabling production of lower as well as uppercase characters. So when we type on a computer right now, we are simply using a much more modern version of the same invention. Now we want to get to famous music. In 1878, Gilbert and Sullivan's H.M.S. Pinafore premiered in the United States, launching a fad for light opera throughout the country. This was popular music of the time and, in fact, incredibly popular entertainment because it is what people wanted to see and hear. What was popular in the rest of the world in 1878, at least in the part of the world that we loosely call the West? The German composer Richard Wagner was writing his very last opera called Parsifal. According to the standards of that time, he was a fairly old man. He was born all the way back in 1813. Today, you probably think of opera as something very serious, very formal, and very classical. But in 1878, opera was still hugely popular, and Wagner's operas have never stopped being important to serious musicians around the world because the music itself is so spectacular. Wagner's ideas were extremely forward-thinking because he was attempting to unify drama and singing in a way that was totally new. He was already 65 years old in 1878. Johannes Brahms, another German composer, was 20 years younger in 1878. That year he wrote his only violin concerto, and to this day that concerto remains one of the most popular violin concertos ever to have been written. He was 45 years old. In 1878, Tchaikovsky, a Russian composer, wrote his only violin concerto at the age of 38, and this is also one of the most popular violin concertos ever written. It is rather astounding that the one written by Brahms and the one written by Tchaikovsky were written in the same year. But Tchaikovsky was not yet done in 1878. This is the year he finished his Symphony No. 4 at age 38. That is one of the world's most famous and popular symphonies. Meanwhile, the Czechoslovakian composer Antonín Dvorak was hard at work writing his first set of Slavonic dances at age 37. You can see how close he was in age to Tchaikovsky, who was only 1 year older. The first set of Slavonic dances was written in 1878, and it was modeled after the Hungarian Rhapsodies of Brahms, another set of music that was enormously popular. This is no coincidence. Dvorak eventually became the very first famous composer in Czechoslovakia because of the support of Brahms. He even used the same publisher. Finally, Gilbert and Sullivan wrote the H.M.S. Pinafore, and we already know how incredibly popular that was in the United States. Gilbert wrote the words and Sullivan wrote the music. They were 42 and 36 respectively in 1878. Not every year was so jammed-packed with great original music. There are other years where I have been lucky to find even one major piece of music that remains extremely popular today. But 1878 was a great year. Just remember that all of this music was very popular and anything but traditional. The people of that time did not think of their music as classical. They thought of it as the very latest thing. During the year 1878, magnificent music was written in Germany, Czechoslovakia, England, and in Russia, and people in the United States heard all of it. For those of you who are interested, read the description of this video and you will find links to all the famous pieces of music I have mentioned in this video. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Let me know what you like and what you would like to see in the future.